Hello and welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me today. In today's video I'm going to be doing some tulips, and I'm doing these on a watercolour pad using the Sennelier travel set of watercolours, which are some lovely bright colours. Now, I've done a few tulip videos in the past, previous springs, because I just love the flower. I love this time of year when you can get them in the shops and you can have them displayed in your home, and I also grow an awful lot of tulips in my own garden. Such a simple shape that lend themselves, especially to beginners when you're drawing, to practice your flower drawing. So I can really recommend them as something at this time of year to have a go at doing. So those previous videos that I've done in a few different styles with different mediums over the years, I will pop the links to those in the description down below. And I wanted to do something different for you today to those previous videos that I've done, because I've done some very simple ones there in watercolour, etc. So what I'm going to do is, I thought I would do it in a Cubism style. So not entirely Cubism, just my sort of interpretation of it, but I thought it's a really good thing that you could do as a beginner to break down the flower into just very basic geometric shapes. And the thing about the tulip is, because it's such a simple form, it really lends itself to this. You could try it with a more complex shape of flower if you're a little bit more confident, but I would recommend starting with something that's a really simple shape like a tulip. So the early Cubism, obviously we think about Picasso, and really the basic thing about it was broken down into these very simple geometric shapes. So whichever subject that you're doing, look at the basic shapes and sort of ignore some of the extra form and the extra detail. Just break it down into those triangles, ovals, curves, squares. Look at the geometric shapes that you can find in the subject that you're looking at. The thing about Picasso's early work was they were actually very monotone, well, not quite monotone, but in very earthy colours, very subtle colours. And of course I've not done that today, because part of the reason I love these tulips is because of the lovely bright colours. And this was actually a rainbow pack that I bought of different colours of tulips. So I've not stuck with that rule. They're not very earthy colours, they're very bright colours, which you get with this Sennelier set anyway. There's a lot of pigment in there, really bright pigment. And of course with that honey binder, that makes them bright as well. So I will link that travel set also down below in the description for those of you that are not familiar with the Sennelier watercolour set. So I've really just used the colours straight from the pans, adding just a tiny touch of water to keep them nice and bright. So another thing about Cubism is you're looking at things from different planes, and that was really one of the whole ideas behind it. Is normally when we have the subject in front of us, we might put a vase of tulips in front of us and we just paint what we can see from our seated position, the way we're looking at it. We don't get up and look at the back, we don't look underneath, we don't look inside. So pick your flowers up and look at them from different directions and paint those and draw those as you see them. So you're not just drawing them in front of you in one block of a vase of flowers, you're looking at them from different planes. So if you think about Picasso's people and the fact that you can see both eyes on the profile of the face, which obviously you couldn't do, it's because he's done things from different angles and put them onto that 2D surface of the paper. The other thing about Cubism that I've not really done too much in this picture, that I should have done perhaps, or that you could do if you're doing yours, is to do more overlapping and to get the items going across each other more. And then you can use layered colours. So this is another good reason to use watercolour paints in this exercise, is because you want them to be slightly transparent so you can layer your colours up. So initially I did a margin. I always tend to do a margin on my pictures. It gives you somewhere to test your colours in the margin if you want to, but it also makes it easier for framing and for photographing if you want to do that afterwards. So it's always a good idea to do a little margin. And then I didn't have much of a plan in my head for the drawing itself. I set off with that main focal flower, looking into that flower from above, and did those complicated shapes there, but tried to break them right down into a much more simple shape where all those leaves, petals rather than leaves, are overlapping. One thing I would say about the finished thing is it perhaps needs a little bit more contrast of shapes and forms in it, because obviously the tulips are very round, oval kind of form, and I do get some straight lines in there with the stems, but it might have been nicer if I'd added some more geometric shapes of very straight lines. So perhaps in the background I could have put some extra straight lines in just to contrast a bit with all those curves that I've got. But I do tend to work with curves. It seems to be my style. I prefer that to lots of straight lines, and you might be slightly different. And of course, whatever you do, even if you're doing a different subject and a different style to you would normally do, your style and your way of working and your favourite things still are going to come out in your own work. So, you know, it's a very curvy picture, and it would have been good to get a little bit more contrast in, perhaps with some straight lines. So that's something that you could keep in mind. So when it came to adding the colour, I began by putting block colours in, just going over the whole flower or the whole area. In the background I used blues and greens, trying to keep it quite a natural, not natural colours, but natural, that there would be perhaps sky or leaves or whatever behind, or maybe some more flowers, and to keep the colours in keeping with the other colours I was using in the flowers. So I began by putting block colours in and then allowed that to dry, and then came over with extra layers to put a difference between each petal, etc. And then after the paints had dried, I came on top with some crayons. You don't have to do that, you could keep on working with your paints to build it up more. You could make it slightly more 3D, some of your shapes, you know, especially like I say, if you're using lines. If you look at some of Picasso's works, you'll see he uses a lot of shadowing and shading to make that a bit more 3D. I did put some shadowing in with the pencils. So I use them in two ways really. I use them to add, well, three ways: a little bit more texture, a little bit of shade, and to make some of the objects a bit more 3D, but also to outline some of the shapes and to cover up some of the pencil that was there. I put my pencil on quite heavy in the first place because I wanted it to be nice, strong lines. I didn't want, you know, those edges of the drawing to disappear. I wanted it to be a nice structured piece of work. Okay, so I think that's about everything I'm going to tell you about that at the moment. I will do a blog on this, and I will link that down below in the description as well. So I'll just put a little blog together about Cubism, and perhaps having a go at a very simple exercise to do with Cubism, but to pare it back so that it's for a beginner really, so that you're not looking too deeply into it. You're just sticking with those rules of breaking your forms down into geometric shapes, overlapping them, and using some layers to build up the tone and the shade there. Okay, so I will link all that in the description below. Of course, this doesn't have to be flowers. You could do it with any subject, anything at all, whatever's in front of you now. You could take a couple of objects. With the flowers, you could add something like a vase and look at the vase on the inside, the bottom, and use all those different shapes in your background. So there's all sorts of things you could do with Cubism. Any subject, any topic that you want to do yourself, have a go at. And at the end of this, it'd be really nice actually to turn it into something like a greetings card or an Easter card. Even if you did some daffodils, maybe you could make an Easter card in this fashion. So there's all sorts of things you could do with it. It'd be great for fabrics as well, if you wanted to photograph your work and then pop it onto a fabric or something like that. There's all sorts of things you can do with this. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. Let me know what you think in the description below, and if you've got any questions at all, you can ask me those in the description below, or you can also go over to that blog that I talked about and put some questions in there. And of course, as usual, you can contact me on Instagram. It's probably one of the easiest ways to get me is on Instagram, because that's the social media that I use more often. I don't tend to use Facebook as often as I used to do. It tends to be Instagram and YouTube. So those are the places that you're going to find me the easiest if you want to ask me a question. Don't forget, I've also got other courses on Skillshare. I've not done any new ones recently, but I'm hoping to be working on a new one this week, and I'll let you know as soon as that one's out. And I'll perhaps do an update on how Skillshare's going in my next video as well, if any of you are interested in that, and if you're doing it yourself, to let you know how I'm getting on with that. Anything else at all you want to ask, just shout up and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So I'll pop some music on now while I complete this piece. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next week with another tutorial or demonstration. If you're watching for the first time, thank you very much for joining us, and don't forget you can subscribe below, and the little bell that you see there, and this applies to those of you that are regular as well. If you don't hit that little bell, you won't get updates of when my latest videos are out, so you might miss what's coming up. Okay, so I'll get out of the way now and stop wittering, and see you again soon. Bye for now.
Call me, tell me I'm alive, pull me, fill me up inside here. In the silence of the space, we all find the conclusion, break our illusions, way beyond seeking ourselves. Floating in my mind, taking what I find, how it is to where it's come and why it's meant to be. Dreaming I could lay in fields of Claude Monet. Sirens call my ear and I hear beautiful creatures sing to believers, way beyond seeking themselves. Tonight, oh tonight, I wonder if tonight is when I will feel it again. Tonight, I wish to live, I wish to stay. In the light, in the dark, on the verge of who we are, we solemnly reach for the stars. Tonight, I wish to love you all the way, all the way. Naked to the bone, opening my soul to how it is, to where it's come, to where it's meant to go. Freedom is within, harmony begins. When all our conclusions break our illusions, way beyond seeking ourselves. Tonight, oh tonight, I wonder if tonight is when I will feel it again. Tonight, I wish to live, I wish to stay. In the light, in the dark, on the verge of who we are, we solemnly reach for the stars. Tonight, I wish to love you all the way. Tonight, oh tonight, I wonder if tonight is when I will feel it again. Tonight, I wish to live, I wish to stay. Fill me up inside. In the light, in the dark, on the verge of who we are, we solemnly reach for the stars. Tonight, I wish to love you all the way. Call me all the way, pull me all the way, all the way.
It was an unexpected turn, needing someone who gave my heart a third-degree burn. You might have seen this place before, but for me, but it's a little bit unsure. So you must understand, if I tried to get the lay of the land, it's a lot to take in. Can't seem to read your face, don't know where to begin. Yeah, I'll be your getaway driver if you provide the wheels. I'll stand in the line of fire if you just tell me how it feels when we kiss, when we touch. You have a way about you now. I find that I am defenseless somehow. Got nothing to reference, but a ton of guts to make amends. I won't be a victim of circumstance. Gonna figure you out somehow. Well, I'll be your getaway driver if you provide the wheels. I'll stand in the line of fire if you just tell me how it feels when we kiss, when we touch. How does it make you feel? How does it make you feel?